My mom worked for a cremation company called Allstate. And when she was working there, she told me all about the bodies that she cremated, the bodies that she got in, and basically about the cremation process in general. But even before she was working there, she was really interested in the science behind death. She was constantly reading books and watching documentaries about different death services, or I guess life services, and telling me about them. This got me interested in the subject as well, and it inspired me to create a TED Talk about what really happens when you donate your body to science. In a survey that I conducted, I found out that 62% of people knew basically nothing about body donation services, just like I did at the start of this. And I wanted to see, who actually knew stuff. Turns out, nobody. But this made me want to educate people on my topic and really put some information out there so people can make an informed decision about what to do with their body. The first thing I wanted to know was how many people actually donated their body to science, and the statistics were astounding. 49% of Americans, this is out of 323 million people, 49% of Americans cremate their bodies. 45% of Americans go with burial, and it shows 0, but it's really 0.0062% of people, or 20,000 bodies a year, are donated to science. 20,000 sounded like a lot in my head, but compared to these, it's incredibly low. And the demand for bodies is so high from colleges and hospitals, and the supply is rather low, as you can see. In another part of my survey, I asked what people were planning on doing with their bodies after death. And I found that 30% of people wanted to donate their bodies, 27% wanted to be cremated, and 20% wanted to be buried. This didn't quite match up with the data I had found, as in this, the body donation rate was a lot higher than the cremation rate, but I think it was because my sample size was too small. If I had surveyed a larger group, I think I would have got similar results. Although it might also be a generational thing in that young people want to further advancements in science rather than go with traditional after-death services, especially considering religion. So this made me wonder, why aren't more people donating their bodies? Is it a lack of understanding or knowledge? So I wanted to break down that process for you guys step by step so you can really understand what's happening. The first step is filling out a form. This is a tax form, which you won't be filling out, but you'll fill out a form that's kind of long, either you or your family, before you die, that goes over basically what your health is like before and after your death, your age, what you want to be done with your body, and what you do not want to be done with your body. That last part is kind of interesting because it's not legally binding. You don't have to donate your body after you fill out the forms, and the facility also doesn't have to follow the requests for what you do and do not want to be used for. They'll try their best to respect the dead, obviously, but if there's a demand for something and they only have your body to do it, they're going to take that body and use it, regardless of what the form says. The second part of this process is you actually dying. It's an unfortunate part, but it's necessary in this process, as you might see. After you die, your cadaver will be assessed by a medical professional. They're looking for things to see if you are actually eligible to donate. Things that will make you ineligible to donate are things like being obese, having an infectious disease like HIV or MRSA or hepatitis, as well as having excessive surgeries, especially oral surgeries, which I thought was interesting, or if you're an organ donor and have previously donated organs. That last part was kind of unfortunate to hear because I myself am an organ donor, and I also wanted to donate my body to science. But it's kind of hard to find a facility that will take a body after most of their vital organs have been removed, surprisingly. When I surveyed my class, 80% of them were planning to be organ donors, and I compared the list of people who were organ donors to the list of people who wanted to donate their bodies, that 30% down there. And only one name wasn't on both lists. While I was really happy with this information and people's willingness to give their bodies to science and help people in need, it was also unfortunate to see because there was a clear lack of knowledge somewhere that got mixed up that said, you can do both of these things. I myself had thought that I could do both of these things, and turns out you can't. So I wanted to really enforce, and back that up to show that doing your research is really important when doing whatever you want with your body after you die, so that way it goes towards a cause that you really support. The next step is the cadaver being split up. The body actually doesn't stay whole most of the time. And it can be kind of disturbing when you think about it. Basically, the body goes wherever there's a need for a body. And in Mary Roach's book, Stiff, she talks about how a lot of cadavers are beheaded. I know it sounds like pre-revolutionary France, but if you need a head, you need one. So they cut off the head, shave it, and clean it, and then give it to, most of the time, plastic surgeons. Mary Roach talks about sitting in on one of these classes, and the heads are sat in like turkey dishes that you would regularly cook a turkey in for Thanksgiving, with a sheet over them on a table. When the plastic surgeons come in, they remove the sheet, and she could see that some of them were disturbed by what they had in front of them. And I understand why that may be disturbing, as there's a severed head in front of you. But I think that this shows this puts body donation in a negative light, being dismembered like that. But I think it's really important, and the advancements that it could make are more important than the discomfort it might cause a couple plastic surgeons. I was also interested to learn that plastic surgeons prefer bodies that haven't been embalmed as opposed to those who have, because after you've been embalmed, the formaldehyde actually messes with things like Botox, so the skin tightens, and it doesn't work as well when they're practicing Botox or rhinoplasty, which is a nose job. So who knows, maybe it'll look better after death. Other parts of the body are also split up, like sometimes the eyes are collected and taken to practicing optometrists for study. As you may know, there are muscles in your eyelids that keep your eyes shut. So when you die, your eyes automatically stay open because there's nothing holding those muscles down. So the eyes will be put with what's called an eye cap, which is like this big. It looks like a contact lens. It's got spikes on the outside. So they put it inside your eyelid and pull your eyelid down over it and then glue it shut so your eye stays closed. Because nobody wants to be looking down at a severed head and have it looking back at you. Other parts of the body can also be used. There was one facility that used a severed leg to test what kind of terrain was the hardest on the muscles, especially those around the ankles, so they could see what was most damaging to things like the Achilles heel. Which I think is really interesting because they just have a leg attached to kind of like an arm that makes it run like this on different kinds of terrain like rocky mountainsides and stuff. So once the body is accepted and split up, it's sent off to different facilities, usually hospitals and universities. Universities have a severe lack of bodies to test on, as there's a giant amount of medical students and not a giant amount of dead people, as it turns out. So when they donate, a lot of times universities will ask for a large amount of bodies well in advance, so that way when enough people die, as winter is the busy season for the death industry, they can send all those people out at once to one facility. I also learned that a lot of places prefer fresh as to frozen bodies, which I just thought was an interesting thing to share, as, if they're frozen, they have to thaw out afterwards as well, so keeping them frozen is an interesting situation. After they're sent out, they will also be used by scientists who will take vital organs and perform tests and stuff like that on the bodies, which I think is the main reason why you can't donate if you have donated some of your vital organs, because those are what's used most for testing and especially the expansion of medical research. Some strange things do happen after they're sent off besides actually being beheaded. A lot of people don't know that cadavers are also used in the car manufacturing industry as well as in the military. Cadavers are used as test dummies, so like during car crashes and stuff, so they can test the efficiency of seatbelts, airbags, and how much the body will actually be damaged, because nothing breaks quite like a human body. And they're also used by the military to test things like bulletproof jackets as well as weapons. I'm not sure how I feel about being shot full of bullets, but if it helps our troops. Sorry. So I understand how seeing something like that or hearing about something like that could, again, put a negative light on things like that. But I do think it's really important to consider donating your body because of how many people it actually can help. As I said, they're used for medical procedures and research, and even centuries ago, when we didn't have this common sense of donating your body, practitioners would actually steal bodies from graves and start practicing on them because they had that intense need and desire to expand the medical field any means possible. So people actually started putting bars over their graves. But I hope that this information makes you consider donating your own body, because you never know how you can change the world, even in death. Thank you.